So today I'm joined by Ruth Hyde. Ruth is the owner and managing director of Cryojuvenate. Hi, Ruth.
Hi, Simon. How are you?
I'm very good. How about yourself?
Yep, very good. Now the sun's out.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of sun, yeah, what we've all been looking forward to. So, Ruth, I've been really interested in speaking to you and finding out a bit more about Cryojuvenate. So tell us a bit more about your business.
Okay, so Cryojuvenate is primarily a cryotherapy business, but it's for sports injuries, for wellness, for beauty, and for weight loss. So we have different appliances that can be used in different ways. We have a whole body cryotherapy chamber that it's a bit like an ice bath that people go into at minus 85 degrees for between 3 and 5 minutes, depending on your sort of levels of cold, if you can handle it, you know, or if you do ice baths, you do cold water swimming, that type of thing.
Okay.
When you go into that chamber, it immediately gets your metabolism going. The body will go into a state of fight or flight, and the brain sends a signal to your heart saying, oh my God, it's an emergency. So the blood all makes its way to protect the vital organs. So during that process, your body's also burning calories.
Yeah.
When you come out of the chamber and the blood all, circulates back to where it wants to go, you will actually burn between 500 and 800 calories. But also what will happen is it can flush through like any inflammation in the body. It can help to speed up recovery if it's an injury. It can help to manage pain if it's a chronic problem such as arthritis, fibromyalgia, any of the autoimmune diseases. You've got back pain, slipped discs, injuries. The list's endless, actually. It also brings down the cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone, if you do it on a regular basis. We did actually do a study with the University of Kent a couple of years ago with 9 perimenopausal women who went in the chamber every day for 6 days. There was saliva tests at the beginning and at the end, and the results showed that the cortisol levels reduced by 52%.
Wow.
And sleep improved by 40 to 50%. So that's sort of like the people pillar, if you like, is the whole body cryotherapy chamber. But we have targeted cryotherapy for like a knee, ACL, MCL, tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, inflammation if you've twisted your ankle, Achilles heel, plantar fasciitis. The list is endless. We use the local cryotherapy to do cryotherapy facials as well. We do fat freezing. We do cryopan, which is for age spot, skin tags, warts, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So we have a wide range. We also do sports massage as well. So we do see a lot of fit people, sports people. We also see children, for the cryopan, for localized cryotherapy, young boxers, the actual range of clients we see is quite large.
That sounds amazing. Absolutely. I haven't studied these things, but I've seen bits in magazines and on television. It sounds absolutely amazing. I mean, it's making me question why I sort of spent 45 minutes at the gym today and burned 45, I think about 500 calories in a spin class. I should have just come to you and although I don't particularly like cold, but look, that sounds great. So, well, look, let's go back a bit here. Why did you start your own business? Because I think if I've researched correctly, you were, was it in IT in the city or?
Yeah. I'd worked in the city for years and years, and sort of at the peak of my career, if you like, I was the voice manager for a bank. So I used to manage all the internal voice recordings and stuff like that. So it was a quite stressful job. I was on call. Eventually I got made redundant from that. Did a few other jobs in the city, but it was a changing sort of scope at the time, and I was already 51, and I decided that I didn't want to have that life anymore. So I basically was looking for a business that I could start that could help people. Also having quite a sporty background myself, not in any professional way, and also having experienced quite a few of the things that cryotherapy can help with. For example, I had psoriasis for years and years. Now, regular cryotherapy can actually really help the skin. It can help the psoriasis is the turnover of the skin cells really quickly. It's also connected with autoimmune. And I was a juvenile arthritis sufferer as a child. Through sport, I'd had cartilage operations, shoulder operations, all sorts. So I really related to what cryotherapy could do. At the time when I set it up, well, nearly 8 years ago now, I didn't realise how new to the game cryotherapy was and how no one had ever really heard of it. You know, obviously they always have these things in the States, and it is actually quite big in Europe. So yeah, I started the process of researching, you know, finding suppliers, looking for location, and I basically, from the day of the conception of the idea to launching was a year. So it was quite quick, quite, but yeah.
And had being a business owner something that you'd always considered doing and thought about, or was it just triggered by, you know, as you mentioned there, the redundancy, and you thought, okay, you had a passion about this type of business? So, you know, had you thought about it before, owning a business?
I'd always dabbled in this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit of an alpha daily. I was always doing stuff on the side, you know, like selling clothes or perfumes or whatever. So I'd always dabbled in bits and pieces, and I realised I'd spread myself a bit thinly, and I wanted to focus on one thing. So it was, yeah, I had a company, but that was only for contracting, you know, so I converted the company into a Cryojuvenate company, and started trading on the 17th of March, 2017.
Right. Okay. So when you started out, what was the plan? What was the vision for your business at that stage?
Well, when I started out, I actually went on one of the Successful Mums business courses.
Right.
So which covered off a lot of topics. It was a 6-week course, and it really gave me a foundation, even though I'd been in industry, you know, I was aware of procurement and budgets and all of those things. So I did have a good grounding coming out of corporate. It, you know, gave me a massive insight into a lot of the things I knew I would be embarking on, such as marketing, budgeting, you know, price pointing, accounts, and, you know, all those things. So I did that course first whilst I was scoping the business. So I'd never had a business as such before that.
Yeah.
What did I expect? Well, I had a very good business plan. Being a new business, the banks didn't want to lend me any money because obviously I had nothing to show for it. So in the end,
it's that old story, isn't it? When you need the money, nobody wants to lend it to you. When you don't need the money, everybody wants to lend it to you. Yeah.
At the beginning, I did have to fight tooth and nail to get startup loans. So it took a while, but I was running the project in line with it, applying for planning permission, installing phase 3 power, planning building works. You know, it was a very busy year, to say the least.
Absolutely. So, and what was your vision for the business once, you know, had you at that time, had you created a vision of what you wanted to achieve in 5 years, 10 years, or, you know?
I did, yeah. I mean, when I first started, I only started with 4 basic treatments, which was the whole body cryotherapy, fat freezing, localized cryotherapy, and facial cryotherapy. I now offer about 7 or 8, maybe more services, and I've also brought a franchise vitamin drip and infusion business into my business, which runs as a concession. My vision was to have a few more locations. Hasn't quite come to fruition just yet. There's been, you know, obviously COVID, there's been setbacks, there's been I suppose you could say recession, but you know, I can't blame that for not being able to launch additional locations. Doesn't mean to say I won't, but yeah, the vision is, you know, to work with sports people, to work with, you know, everyday people, bring this treatment that was only really for the elite to the high street, which is exactly what I've done. And there has been a lot of cryotherapy places launched now privately and within gyms, etc., etc. But I was one of the leading sort of pioneers, if you like, in the UK, especially in the southeast.
Well done, and yeah, you know, well done for being you know, one of those sort of leaders in that, because as you've explained earlier, of the benefits that athletes have had from it for a number of years, but bringing it to the high street. So yeah. Well done.
Well, even the England team had a mobile cryotherapy van out in Germany.
Right.
Although it didn't help them win, did it?
Unfortunately not. Perhaps they needed to go into it more often. But so okay, so let's go back over the sort of the, you know, the first years in business, or well, to be honest, even recently. What's the biggest challenge that you've faced being a business owner?
I think staff is a very big challenge, because in my business, I employ sports therapists and then cross-train them on the other treatments. So they all actually they learn an awful lot. So if someone does leave, then you've got to go over that. You've got to do that process all over again. So, you know, it's keeping the expertise there. It's keeping the skills fresh. It's keeping my staff knowledgeable and professional, which, you know, that is a big challenge. But, you know, I get over those challenges.
Yeah. So what is there anything in particular that you have done to overcome that? Well, you know, to ensure that you recruit and retain those great.
Yeah, I have sort of incentive schemes for the staff, you know, if they introduce new clients, if they upsell memberships, you know, there's financial incentives there. I am reviewing that at the moment to improve it. You know, and there's always training, staff meetings, you know, a couple of outings during the year, Christmas and generally in the summer. Yeah, you've got to keep them motivated and keep the job varied, which it is very varied, because I delegate tasks to my staff as well. So I get them involved in writing blogs and things like that, which I think is really good, because it helps them to learn more about the treatments that they're delivering, or, you know, different conditions that our treatments can help with.
I was just making some notes there. So, you know, the things that you mentioned there are sort of incentives, sort of rewarding them, you know, giving them training opportunities, keeping them trained at the top of their game, and, you know, the opportunities to develop, and variety of work as well. You mentioned there, giving them opportunities to do interesting things. So yeah,
I'd like to think it's interesting. Well, there's never a dull moment. We're always getting different people walk through the door. We've had famous people come to us over the years. So yeah. So
I would love to ask you which famous people, but I'm sure that you wouldn't be able to tell me, so I won't even put you in that position.
Well, no, it's fine. It was all over social media when they came in. At the beginning we had Rio Ferdinand came down.
Yeah.
I set an intention to get Frank Bruno in. He came in.
Wow.
Kelly Holmes, I mean, she's quite local to Sevenoaks. We've had all sorts. Britain's Strongest Man, Terry Hollands. You know, the list is endless. I can't even remember now, but you know, they're just people at the end of the day, you know.
They are, aren't they? Yeah, I was lucky enough to meet Frank Bruno in April this year.
Oh, lovely. Oh, he's such a nice man. He really is.
Fantastic guy. I remember watching his fights when I was you know, only young in my teens and that, but yeah, lovely, you know, lovely gentleman. So okay, so so look, we spoke about you know, the vision that you had for your business when you started out. So what does the future look like for you now, and what do you see as the main challenges moving forward?
I think for me, I need a plan to put some sort of management in there so I can step back a little bit, because I do want to work on the business, not in the business. I have actually got a new lady starting shortly who's going to take on some more of the managerial sort of tasks to relieve me, and just continue to build the business to a point where if I do want to stand down or retire, I can.
That's a great aspiration, and I'm glad that you've mentioned that and you're thinking about that, because we don't always think about an exit plan for our businesses.
No, I don't think a lot of people do, actually. And it's not because I want to get out, it's because, I want to have more time for myself. Running a business is very time consuming. It's 24/7. You don't get a break. Even when you are on holiday, you're still answering emails and messages and supporting the team while you're away. So for me, I want to get to a point where I can let go of some of those responsibilities and hand them down to someone.
Yeah, and you're right. We don't often think about those exit strategies, but whether we like it or not, we're all going to exit our businesses at some stage.
Maybe. Some people don't, and it keeps them going as well,
Well, everyone does, because nobody lives forever.
Well, this is true.
So we're all going to exit at some stage. It's just whether that exit is planned or unplanned. Is really the difference. We can, as you say, we can plan to exit the business or sell the business, or for the business to run without us, or we can have a forced exit through either something bad happening in the business, or ill health, or even worse. So it's just whether it's planned or unplanned is the main difference. But we will all exit at some stage. So, okay, look, thanks for sharing that. What in terms of the your biggest learnings as a business owner, Ruth, what would you say is one or two of your biggest learnings since you've been in business?
Oh gosh. Well, I've had to become an all-rounder, really. I'm now a social media manager. I'm a bookkeeper. I'm a photographer. I'm an HR. What are my biggest learnings is, oh gosh, I think it's hard to say, really. I just enjoy being around people. I've met the most amazing people. I've learnt to, you're not always going to succeed the first time around. You do have to maybe reshape something, or, do it a different way, because you only learn by mistakes, So from that perspective, that's one of the biggest things that I've learned. And I think, if you've got your heart in your job, and if you're enjoying what you're doing, then, that's a massive bonus.
So learn from your mistakes and love what you do.
Yeah, I'd say so.
That's some great advice there, to learn from your mistakes and love what you do. I think the other thing you mentioned there as well is as something you learn, is that actually you need to be able to do a lot of things, because particularly when you start out on business, you have to be everything. If you start out being a solopreneur, you need to do the actual day-to-day operations of the job, but on top of that, you need to do sales and marketing and finance and all the other things as well, until you're in a position that you can either outsource or recruit people around you to do those sort of things. So I guess being prepared that, at the outset, if you're just setting up a new business, you may have to do all these different things. So okay, look, thanks for sharing that. So look, there's one question here that I always like to ask all of the people that are kind enough to join me on this, and that is, what is the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old you?
Oh gosh. What if wanting to start out with business or just start out with life?
Just for you, if you could go back in time and speak to yourself when you were 18, what would you tell yourself?
I think I'd probably say follow your dreams. You know, at that time, back in the day, back in the 80s, it was like you went to work in a bank or you didn't. Everyone applied for the bank. So it's sort of like, you know, you're conditioned. So I would suggest to myself, listen to your heart and don't listen to anyone else.
Thank you for sharing that. There's, and you know, the reason that I asked that question is because I've got an 18-year-old daughter. So I love passing on to her these things that people say.
Well, you won't want to pass that on then, will you?
I do. I pass everything on. But I think that, and I agree with you, by the way. I think that is, I always sort of say, look, just follow your passion, what you love.
Yeah.
And funny enough, like you, I went and worked in a bank when I left school. You know, it was either banking or insurance if you went to work in the city.
It was pretty much, you know, it was, or you joined a union and somehow got into a job somewhere along the line.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was very different. It was very different.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I often, you know, so I've got two daughters, and I say to them, yeah, look, do what you love, do what you love. And
Well, the
then
thing is, you don't always know what you love at that age. You know, you might love gymnastics or you might love sport, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a career in it. But I think I was never the office type, but I ended up in an office for years and years. Although my job in IT meant I was crawling under desks and jumpering cables and doing all sorts of things like that. I was primarily at a desk, you know, and I think if I'd known that there was this other world that existed outside of all these little entrepreneurs and businesses, I dipped all the time. I never really took the chance because my dad was a stockbroker in the city with a very safe, in theory, safe job. And me and my siblings, we tend to follow suit, you know, with slightly different careers.
but that is exactly how it was back then. I followed a similar path. So yeah,
Yeah.
and as you say, back then it was a more stable career, wasn't it? It was, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately they're less stable now. But look, you know, I think, you know, I've picked up some really great things from what you've shared with us today, Ruth. I mean, you know, you've mentioned there about, you know, employees and, you know, recruiting and retaining great employees, and, you know, using incentives and training and keeping their job sort of varied. You know, you've also mentioned about, you know, learning from mistakes. Okay, we all make mistakes. The, you know, thing is to learn from them and move on, and that's how you get better and better. And you've also said, actually a couple of times, you said there, love what you do, love what you do, and then follow your dreams. So yeah, I've picked up on some great things there. So Ruth, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your business and your journey. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.